Well, hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Keys to the Shop, where we give you insights, inspiration, and the tools you need to grow as a coffee service professional. My name is Chris DeFirio. I'm your host for the show. Glad to have you here, and I would really be glad to have you subscribe to Keys to the Shop. You can do that on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, but it's basically everywhere you can find podcasts, and it would be great if you would subscribe, because then you get notified with new episodes when they come out. They come out very often, about 8 or 9 every month, and that'd be great. So today, we're sponsored by our friends at pacificfoodservice.com. Those are the folks behind the Barista series. They have been making this for decades. They're the originals in this sector, in this category of plant-based beverages. And I think that you should try it for yourself by going to pacificfoodservice.com and getting samples, because the product is made for baristas. It is made to perform on the bar, to create balance in the beverage, so the coffee is always the star. The texture is great, and they are just wonderful people as well. That's a bonus. So check them out at pacificfoodservice.com. Now, also our friends at coffeebusinessconnection.com. Coffee Business Connection is a platform that gives you access to really great information, insights, and resources to run a great coffee shop online. Started as a online live webinar. I've participated in it a couple of times now, and it just keeps getting better. And they are building some really cool stuff, and they're deepening the resources and the offerings and services. So go check them out over at coffeebusinessconnections.com. Today, I wanted to talk to you about numbers, and focusing on numbers, focusing on the financial performance of your business and the metrics of the business versus the experience. And the reason I'm bringing this up is not to tell you that one is to be focused on to the exclusion of the other, but this is kind of keeping in line with our recent episodes where we've been talking about priorities, and the priority that we have to attend to keep those numbers going up, or where they are and where we like them, is the experience. Now, what we end up doing, though, is we focus on the numbers almost to the exclusion of the experience, and we make experiential decisions based only on numbers, in the sense where we say, well, what's working in the industry to bring me more money, and not what is happening with my experience in the cafe, and or how the customers are feeling about your service or your comfort level and the quality and the consistency and that kind of thing. But what we do is we create a narrative in our minds that says the answer is out there. And that I think most of the time the answer is actually under the questions that you ask. It's the answers to the questions you don't want to ask yourself, or the questions that you don't want to pursue. And so when we think about how to drive sales, how to drive revenue, we have to think about the experience first and foremost. When customers absolutely love the experience, when they come away from your cafe glowing, this is going to bring with it revenue. It is almost a bygone conclusion. Now, there are some factors that you have to consider, like if you're in a position where there's constraints beyond your control, where the rent is going to go up to such a level that is untenable for you to remain a tenant, right? It is also maybe the city, New York City. I've seen this happen many times, where construction projects make it almost impossible to see the front door or access the front door of your coffee shop. And there have been businesses that haven't been able to afford to relocate, and they just have to basically close down. It's pretty tragic. So barring circumstances like that, well-being of the ownership, constraints of access, and major hits to capital that are beyond your control, a lot of things are in your control. So where this came up for me, I think, is in the subject of upselling. And it kind of made me think about the other things we associate with how we're going to be successful. We always measure, okay, how direct of a line can I draw from this campaign or this product and revenue in my business. And what we end up doing is we collect a bunch of things and ideas, and we're perpetually trying them out in our business to determine, okay, I'm going to bring in this product, I'm going to bring in this service. We're going to do, we never did flights before, but we're going to do these really fancy flights. We're going to have 3 of them. They're going to be really fantastic. They're going to look really great on Instagram, but they're a nightmare to create in the cafe. I actually don't charge enough for them because I'm afraid to, so I don't make much money on them. And it's just cumbersome. And sometimes people order them just enough for me to not take them off the menu, but not enough for me to be happy that they're on the menu. So the downstream impact on your business maybe wasn't as considered as it should have been when we made those decisions. And now when we come to upselling and we think about our baristas and we want them to engage the customer so that the average ticket will go up, so that that customer will be asked, do you want a larger size? Do you want an extra shot? Do you want vanilla? Do you want this? When we teach people to do that as a reflexive ask for the purpose of getting them to buy a more expensive item in spite of what they ordered from us, what we're doing is tantamount to manipulation. And nobody likes to be manipulated, I think. We go into a coffee shop to be served. We go into a coffee shop to experience the thing that it said it would give us, because the marketing shows these happy people drinking coffee and they all look like they're having a good time. But then when you go in and you realize, what's happening is I'm being herded. I'm being upsold by somebody whose sole motivation is higher sales. And you might have competitions going on. You might have, if you can sell a certain number of these things to customers, you win, some special gift card or things like that. I want to tell you that in the world of hospitality, I think right now doing that is going to have long-term negative impact on the experience, and therefore actually you'll be sawing off the branch you're sitting on, so to speak. Because when the customer feels seen and that they are being connected with by the barista, and the barista can actually be incentivized to not sell to that customer because of that connection. You have to know when not to and when to. Don't just keep asking, what do you want? Do you want this? Do you want a large? It's actually, a lot of people love the large. Do you want a large? Do you want to add an extra shot? All the things that we want to make that ticket go up. And so we can feel proud of ourselves amongst our internal culture that we totally increase the sales. And so we keep this rhythm of what matters is that we had a record day. How we got there almost is irrelevant, because after the smoke clears and the fog of war settles from our brain, so to speak, we are not able to recall hardly anything of what happened because we weren't really that present. We weren't as intentional, but we know we made a lot of money. And so our impulse as managers and owners is often, we're going to celebrate this. We're going to send a text and be, this was a record day. Good job, everybody. And now, how do you know that they did a good job? We don't really know that. Have you ever been to a coffee shop that's extremely slammed? Record day. Okay, you made a lot of money, but how you did it, the means to that end, means more than the end itself, because it will determine the sustainability of those numbers. Is it a fluke? We don't know. If you came at that prepared and intentionally serving very well those people that were lined up, you have more presence of mind and calm. You're not operating from the amygdala. You're operating from the prefrontal cortex, like the reasoning center of your brain. And so you invest in that kind of a approach to the customer service instead of incentivizing people to see people as just numbers and then wonder why people are not talking about, customers are not raving about the hospitality, because everybody has been told that customer has a dollar sign over their head They are going to, we're almost trained to commodify people. So, what are we supposed to do here? What is the thing that we should be thinking about right now that will make a difference for the future? Because we're not supposed to not focus on the numbers, but internally, those things can't be the why behind the what. We always talk about that whole Simon Sinek foundational knowledge of what motivates people, that why behind the what. It is now just part of our vernacular in leadership. It is a part of the way we talk about things. But we have to ask ourselves the question, are we actually providing a great why? And the numbers do matter. You can share numbers. You can share numbers with your staff, with your management. That's great. I like the idea. I think transparency in the financials and even going so far as to almost teach people, what is business like? Then there's a lot more understanding. There's a lot more empathy toward the people that are behind those numbers, making sure the taxes are paid, making sure the payroll is paid, insurance, and all of the other stuff that goes unnoticed. You can make people notice that. I'm not saying that as a tool to make them feel guilty or shut them up and that kind of thing. Only do this if you're doing it as a generous means of including people, not as a means to just kind of show off how miserable you are or just be like, see how hard it is, now stop complaining. We're trying to make this a little bit more of a hospitality thing, right? And it would help them to know. It would. And I think the byproduct might be that some of the impulsive assumptions get quelled. They get tamped down a little bit. But just like the numbers, if that's your goal, I don't know if it's going to come across that you'll sound more passive aggressive, right? Because there's an ulterior motive. So just like if you say, "Hey, I want you to make eye contact. I want you to smile," because those customers, when they pay more for a drink and they see your smiling face, they're going to tip more. That's good for you, right? You got college tuition to pay, and it helps the business because we want to have a record day. Now that's a stupid why. I think it's not illegitimate. It is a carrot dangled in front of somebody that isn't as motivating as something that's transcendent of that. It is important, yes. But if you give people only that, what happens is vapid, disingenuous, manipulative, disconnected, cold service. Perfunctory, performative. There's a difference between performing well on bar and being performative. Again, it's about being genuine or disingenuous. Okay? So if your standards for your business are focused on the experience that the customer is having, and you train people against the industry norm of putting dollar signs on people's foreheads and treating them like a number, and instead treat them like people that are needing to be seen, welcomed, acknowledged, included, served well. And guess what? How you serve them well is an exchange of goods and services, right? It's money for coffee. This is what you do. They're there to spend money. You don't have to convince them to spend money. That's why they're there, unless they're asking for a donation for a local school. And that might be a whole other episode. Actually, I was thinking about creating how to deal with donations and charitable donations. But they're there because they want to buy something. So you don't need to really convince them. They already know what they want. Now, if they don't know what they want, you can talk to them in such a way that actually gets to what they might want. If what you talk to them about is in the back of your mind, oh, this is the most expensive thing. Did you have, you know what would be really good for you? You've never been to a coffee shop before? You've never been to our shop? There's this really expensive pour over. No, we don't say expensive, very special pour over. It's $9 or something like that. It's really amazing. I love it. Do you want to buy that? You want to get this large drink with confetti, all, sprinkles and all this other stuff? That might be really good. In the back of our mind, what we're trying to do is convince. It's like convincing a kid to eat the broccoli. Only the difference is this is not actually good for the customer. So I think we need to be aware that this is sort of like it's almost a default mode at this point. Because when we hire people, especially when we hire younger people, we almost create this lowered expectations environment where we just want them to do the thing. Almost, we don't want them to be robotic, but we want them to have a script and we want them to upsell, and we teach them that numbers are the most important thing, almost. Maybe not explicitly, but like we said, it's almost like just part of the culture. So what we have to do is retool our own expectations of people and have a little bit of faith in the process. You will be taken care of by your customers when you can engage those customers in a genuine way to serve their needs. And the upselling is going to be more intentional, conscious, hospitality focused, instead of manipulating people to draw more money out of their wallet. That's not the point of a customer. The customer's lifetime value is worth way more than this particular transaction's value. And somehow we don't see that. Somehow we just think about right now, I need you to spend a lot of money, but the lifetime value of that customer, how they feel over the next few months or next few years at your place, it builds up. Your reputation builds up based on those interactions they have with you each moment. So where you think you win by convincing somebody to get something almost against their will, or taking advantage of their confusion and desperation to just get out of the line, what you're actually doing is damaging the foundation of your business. Because that customer may not have spent a lot of money, but if they're happier with the purchase and you actually tried to serve them and not your goals, they and everybody else collectively, in aggregate, will help you achieve those goals more sustainably over time. It is a law of reciprocity. It is building trust. That momentum cannot be replaced by, the numbers first mentality. Numbers do matter, of course. People will produce those numbers when they are taken care of. And I think that's a good shift to think about as you continue to go into 2026. And a lot of places might be getting a lot busier as we go into warmer months in a lot of places in the world. So let's think about that when the chips are down, when it's really busy in our place. Can we focus in on the quality of our hospitality and focus in on serving the customer in front of us as well as we possibly can? Again, so that when they walk out of this place, they are glowing. They feel it. They're not just a number. They connected with this place. There is something about that person, that coffee, the way things were, the experience I had that makes me want to come back here and spend more money. I've done this many times myself just to support a business. I didn't do it because I was incentivized by some program or because somebody had a script that was just like flipping a switch in my brain. You'd be like, you know what? I do want an extra shot. Wow, the way you just said that completely convinced me. It was because I felt I wanted to give back to those who had given so much to me. And I think that's at the heart of hospitality. And so I wanted to just share that with you, and hopefully that was helpful. Let me know what you think, of course. You can comment in the Instagram post or on LinkedIn, on YouTube as well. And always email chris@keystotheshop.com for any inquiries about consulting, coaching, key holder coaching groups, and the like, or just like to talk to you. So thanks, everybody. And as always, I hope that this episode has truly given you keys to the shop.